Perfect. Can you guys hear me okay? All right, perfect. So welcome to the Phat Life Collective December New Moon Meetup. I always get the months wrong because I always feel like I'm a month behind. So, and there was one month y'all didn't correct me and I looked like a jackass. Looking at you, Will. No, I'm just kidding. So with our new moon meetup, basically what we do is we kind of talk about how we're feeling right now. There's a lot going on astrologically, not just with this new moon, but just with a lot of stuff. And so we're going to talk about that. And then we'll do a little ritual. We don't always do rituals. I just felt compelled to go through a little ritual since it's a really good manifesting moon tonight. And then we'll go through a few things. So right now for this new moon, it meets with the sun at I think it's 21 degrees Sagittarius. And if you're not familiar with the degrees in astrology, the closer it gets to the end of the sign is like more in depth of that sign. So like, for example, Pluto is at the very end of Capricorn, and we are at the end stages of capitalism, thanks to Capricorn and that money making stuff. So we're with the new moon that's happening right now. It is in the late part of Sagittarius, and Sagittarius is all about expanding our mind, expanding our world, expanding our knowledge. It's ruled by Jupiter, so there's a lot of luck involved with that. And so for those that are familiar with your astrology chart, do you know where this new moon would be highlighting in your specific chart for you? Anybody want to talk about it?
It is my sun sign. It is my main.
Okay, do you know what house it's in?
Let me look. Can I exit the app and look?
Maybe you might have to like look and then come back in and I can let you in if it does, but
Actually, seventh house.
oh, okay, perfect. So if it's in your seventh house, so that means it's going to highlight your partnerships, and that could be platonic, romantic, friendships. It's just the partners you have in life. So what you may see is more expansion, new people coming in, things like that. So William raised his hand. What's up? This is so weird. What, raising your hand?
I just wanted it to be known I had something to say.
Okay.
Mine's in my second house.
Okay, cool. So that's going to highlight and bring in new expansion, manifestations, whatever you want to call it, in your house of money and value. It's your money and your values. So I love how you guys are like, yeah. So you may manifest more, see more expansion in your house of like making money, or just what like holding boundaries can even be in that. It may not necessarily be money. It could be just, I feel more compelled to hold boundaries in this house kind of thing. For me, it falls in my 10th house or my 12th house, which the 12th house is the undoing. And it's like also the spiritual house. So there's a lot of like, this is going to really highlight how I show up spiritually for myself, how I show up, how, excuse me, how I show up spiritually for myself, but it can also fuck some shit up for me. So I have to be real mindful with what that looks like. So yeah. Anybody else know what house it might be or want to share just your thoughts on it? No? Okay. So, what we might be feeling right now is like this sense of like well, one, the new year's coming up, so we're like, oh gosh, something new is on the horizon. But we also might feel a little restless too. Is anyone feeling restless? Like I feel like I gotta do something, or I'm gonna miss an opportunity. Is what I see lots of head shaking. So yeah, so that's what this new moon is kind of creating. But also part of the astrology is that not only is this new moon in Sagittarius with the sun, we also have it lined up with Mars. And Mars is about our action in this life, what we're passionate about, what we fight for. And so it's like right there on the edge. So you might feel even more called to be like, I got to get this done and I got to do it now. And I feel like so like, about it. Right. And whatever house that sits in, it might even be more profound in that particular house for you. But in general, that's going to be kind of how that's feeling. And so, and then not only that, oh, here's somebody. Hello, hello, welcome. And then not only that, it's going to also be kind of squaring off with Neptune right now. And Neptune is the planet of illusions. And so the way that I'm interpreting that aspect is that we might be feeling more prone, and Neptune is in Pisces. So Pisces is that dreamy, get me out of reality kind of thing. So the way that I see the sun and the moon lined up with Mars, which is passion, action, expanding our knowledge, squaring off with Neptune, which is the sign or the planet of illusions, fast-paced, like what the fuck's going on in a sign that's all about like getting out of reality. Putting those two together, to me, would have us feeling like, oh shit, everything's about to crumble around us. Nobody likes us. Like, what am I doing? I got to make a change. Oh my gosh. And it's not like that. That's not real. That's not like, take a deep breath and recognize that things are okay. Count our blessings kind of piece, and kind of move forward from there. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. I love all these like head shakes. Thank you for the acknowledgement. Is there anyone that doesn't feel like that at all? Like they're not feeling like things are kind of in this weird, like, oh my gosh, I got to do this, and everything's just crazy? No? Okay. And feel free to just pop in however you'd like. And so with this new moon, for those that are in the collective, there I have a form that's normal for me. Christy said, so I have a bundle if you haven't gotten it already, and it's manifesting with the moon. And when it comes to manifesting with the moon, from new moon to the full moon, that's where we're putting the action and the work into things. So it kicks off with the new moon. This is about setting intentions and setting new goals. That's why we're going to do a little ritual in just a moment. And then over the next 2 weeks, we're going to go through the phases of the moon to put in the action, to set the plan, and to kind of make it work before we fall into our feminine energy, which is from the full moon to the new moon, where we kind of share what we've learned, and allow for guidance, basically, to then move into reconnecting with ourselves and resting before the next new moon. And so if you've ever heard like, oh, the full moon is coming, everybody's acting crazy, da 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 da, and that's usually the week right before the full moon, and that's the give us moon, and that's where shit is like, you're rolling with it, and it's like, oh hell. So if you don't already have this, definitely download it. It's free in the collective, and you can kind of follow along with me as we talk through that. But right now we're setting our goals and we're setting our intentions. So what I'd like for us to do is I asked everybody to bring your own cards, because I want everybody to kind of do their own reading for themselves. And so take a moment. Does everybody have cards? Does anybody need a moment to grab some cards? And if you don't, you can do this at a later time. That's fine.
I need to go grab mine. Hang on.
Okay, no problem. And so I'm going to have everybody kind of take a moment to shuffle their cards. We're going to take a moment to kind of ground our energy and pull some cards for ourselves. And this is like I want us to kind of do this so that we can put some focus in what we're trying to manifest. And yes, Will. I almost missed it. I almost missed your hand raise.
So, I actually forgot I had this deck. It's that Moonology one, but it's the manifestation one.
Such a good one.
Okay, so because I have that one, this one too. I just didn't know if, since we're manifesting, I mean,
whatever you feel called to.
Okay.
I'm going to actually use the Moonology deck is what I typically use for like my readings and stuff, but I feel called to use my Tarot the Divine
okay.
deck. So you can use a tarot deck, you can use an oracle deck, you can use a playing card deck because that translates. Christy says I'm going to use my Golden Girls deck. Blanche all the way. And so what I want us to do is kind of take a moment and close our eyes, take a deep breath, and think about centering and grounding our energy to manifest into new things. And I want us to take a moment to think about what it is that we're trying to manifest for this new moon. And then the question I want you to ask the cards is, what is it that I need to, how do I want to phrase this? Because I want to phrase it. And if you have another particular question, that's fine. But I'm thinking more along the lines of like, where is it that I need to focus in this new moon? Or if you want to go as far as 2024, where is it that I need to focus for the new year? And I want us to take that pen and paper I asked you to grab. And when we pull the cards, I want you to write the cards down and write your first initial piece on it and kind of go from there. So take a moment. Deep breaths. Imagining that we have clear energy coming up through the earth and creating a bubble around us so that we are grounded and centered. And when you're ready, just start shuffling your cards, and you can shuffle till I'm thinking like 3 cards either fall out for you or you feel called to pull 3 cards. So whenever that feels right to you, like, oh, I had one just fall out for me. So whatever feels right to you. And then after we pull the cards, for those that would like to share, I'd like to talk about what we got and kind of go from there. But this also could be very personal, so you don't have to share if you don't want to. Okay. And Caitlin or Will, whoever, it just says both of you, so whoever's first can. Caitlin, okay.
Okay. I was just gonna share my 3 cards. I had Ace of Cups, right side up, upside down. That one?
Okay, the 7 of Wands, or what
Yeah,
is that? 7 of
7.
Coins.
Yeah, 7 of coins, yeah. And then Knight of Cups.
Okay, cool. So Ace of Cups, 7 of Coins, and Knight of Cups.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So with those 3 cards, what's your initial take back from that? Take away, I guess.
So I don't have mine memorized. I'd have to look in my little booky book.
No,
But
don't worry about having them memorized. I want you to take a moment to sit with your intuition and just like what kind of comes up for you like when you see that? Like what's the first like the whole point of the exercise is to kind of get in tune with what we feel on that first, and then look at the book and look at what the keywords might be, or what the, you know, piece might say, so that later on, like when hindsight's 2020 kind of thing, that you can then come back and say, oh, this is, my intuition was right, or this is what the cards had said. And does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
The overall consensus is the first thing that comes to my head is I need to pull my head out of my ass and stop being stupid and stop overthinking. Key word was overthinking.
Okay.
So now do I look?
If yep, you can make
All
some
right.
notes on that. And tell me the cards one more time. What was the first one? I remember Knight of no, I don't. Never mind. Just give me all three.
It's Ace of Cups, Seven of Coins, and Knight of Cups.
Okay.
So there's 2 cups here, which is where I think the whole maybe overthinking comes in.
It can be. Keep in mind that cups represents emotions.
Oh, they've been everywhere.
Yeah, and so the Ace of Cups, the way that I always look at the Ace of Cups is like that's new beginnings, and new, and a lot of times it can also be like new love, things like that. And then the Seven of Coins, I always look at sevens as a great pause, like we're taking a moment to make decisions. And in the sign of coins is going to be money related. And then the Knight of Cups, the Knights are always message bearers. They're bringing a message in. And again, in the sign of Cups is going to be emotions or love or something to do with like that type of thing. And so before you even look at the keywords, the way that I would look at that is like, maybe you are overthinking things because emotions are everywhere. But
Yeah.
the way that I also want to look at that is like, maybe I feel like the universe is trying to bring new things in for you. Like it's a message that new things are on its way. But because of like how you're feeling about like the emotions overflowing or whatever that may be,
Yeah.
it's preventing you from making more material-esque decisions.
Okay. Because yeah,
Because the
like
coins are material based, but not material as in things, but just material as
yeah,
in this world kind of thing. Does that make sense?
that does make sense. My emotions and overthinking have solely stemmed off of my self-love towards myself and my self-esteem. Um, so that actually does tie in really well, I feel like, with with what you were saying. Because that, I mean, love can come in any form. It can even come toward yourself too. I mean, I was
Mm-hmm.
telling Will the other day, I mean, I've been dealing with so many insecurities because, like, little backstory, I am in a very healthy and great relationship, whereas my last relationship was very traumatic. So I am in this, yeah, Will knows what I went through, but I'm in this place now where I'm in this healthy relationship and I'm having to rewire, I'm having to relearn, and it's causing me to overthink, doubt myself. It's causing me a lot of insecurities and self-esteem issues. So I definitely do feel like it correlates because I feel like it's going to allow me to fully allow the love to just happen.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that makes sense.
Absolutely makes sense. I can also say that because I totally feel that as well, being in similar situations, that and it's weird that you've said some of those things too, because I just watched a video, like a YouTube video randomly popped up like in my suggested for you or whatever, and it talked about you not only do we have to self-regulate our emotions, and we also have to figure out what that looks like, but it's also one of those things where, like, abandonment cues, for example, that comes from trauma and things like that. There's a, like, object pertinence is a thing for, like, babies and stuff. Like, they don't know that things aren't just there when we can't see it. Emotional pertinence is also a thing, and that's what that video is about, was the emotional pertinence of, like, even though we don't necessarily see or feel certain things because we're so used to the chaos, that normal feels boring, or normal feels like we've done something, normal and healthy feels like we've done something bad. Working through that emotional pertinence of, like, it's still there, even though I may not get the reassurance that I crave because of the lack of having it in prior things. Does that make sense?
It does. It's for me, it's a deep-seated root of I've done something wrong. Like
Yeah.
everything's perfect and normal and I've done something wrong. Something's not right. Yeah, yup. Can you link me that video that
I sure can. And then there was another part too. This was a separate, like, just random TikTok that came up. My TikTok and my Instagram is so random because one minute it's like cringe videos, like where that's just the whole content is just cringy, like what the hell type videos. To the next one is these, like, profound, like, spiritual bullshit. So, I'm like, oh my gosh, what the fuck? But there was another video that came up that talked about, like, we cannot substitute self-love for platonic love or even romantic love. Like, we have to have all of it. It can't, like, and I, personally, I'm bad for this too, is that, especially if you've been in traumatic things, that we talk about, oh, I'm loving myself and I'm just, like, filling my own cup and I'm just trying to do doing the things for everybody else to see, but in deep down we're just really lonely, and we feel like we say we're loving ourselves, but we're having that feeling of doing something wrong, or maybe I'm not really lovable or whatever. And that's because even though we're trying to love ourselves, and we do need to love ourselves, we still have to find our people that can, our community, whether that be platonic or romantic, but for both, to also fill the cup too, because we can't always fill our own cup. And so when we're so used to having our cups just dumped out because we've been in these traumatic things where we haven't been respected, or we've been, all the things, all the trigger warnings, right? That when we come out of that, it is this feeling of, like, this isn't normal for me. And so therefore, if it's not normal, I've done something wrong because I'm so used to all of this. Does that make sense?
That is so
And
dead on.
and so part of healing that, part of that personal growth that happens, is that self-love comes from setting the boundaries and holding the boundaries, but also finding the people that can give us the platonic and the romantic side of that, so that we can totally heal. But that takes time, that takes work, that's not an overnight fix. And that's why communities like the Phat Life and the Collective and other things out there are so important to find, so that you can have like-minded people where you feel comfortable and safe to have these types of conversations without fear of being judged or persecuted for those feelings. Because, and I've gone on a soapbox kind of piece there, but I share all of that to say that, like, as we go through this manifestation piece, make sure that you're sitting with what it is that you really want in that healthy, like, work that you want to do to heal that and that personal growth. Does that make sense?
Perfect.
Okay, perfect. So what, with everybody that has pulled cards, I want you to do the same exercise. We can talk about one or two other people's, that's fine. But what I want you to do is to write down the cards, write down your first initial thoughts before you look up what the meanings are, and then look up the meanings and write a little journal, a little bit about it. Journal how you're feeling, journal what you think this might be about, journal about like how things are going or whatever. And then that way, come next month or come, in 3 months, 6 months, whatever, you can look back and be like, oh shit, I know exactly what the fuck that was about, kind of thing. And so is there anybody else that wants to talk about their cards, what they got?
I got it's full moon in Aries, and it says to cool your emotions.
The
And I got
like Pull.
yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah.
Okay.
Then I got a first quarter moon in Aries, step into your power.
Okay.
And then I got the full moon in Sagittarius, see the bigger picture.
Okay, cool. So what's your initial thoughts on those?
My first one, the full moon in Aries, the cool your emotion, is I'm a huge worrywart. And so my first initial thought was take day by day. Try not to over plan or overthink, and just take each day as it comes and not be so worried about things you can't control.
Mm-hmm.
The second one, the step into your power, I wrote down take control, realize you're good enough. Because there's a lot of changes coming up, especially with my work, and I'm being trained to do a lot of new things because people can rely on me. And there's times where I know I can do it, but I do have some doubts sometimes. It's like, am I going to be good enough for me to continue doing this, or am I going to mess up so bad that I don't get to do it any longer? And then the see the bigger picture. I've always, I had my birth chart read earlier this year, and they told me that 2024 was from what they saw was going to be a really good year for me. And as far as just like health and stuff like that, and we'll see. I mean, I believe them, and I'm trying to manifest it. I'm not trying to dismiss them. But at the same time, I want to own that and believe it, and not just say, "Oh yeah, you're full of shit," So I think that's what I got from that, was just to bring it in and take it on.
Something else that actually, the way that I interpret those is, so it was a full moon in Aries.
Yes.
A first quarter moon in Aries, and then a full moon in Sagittarius, right?
Yeah.
So with our manifesting with the moon, what does the full moon mean? We're letting things go, right?
Yeah,
We're just purging.
Yeah.
And in this, both of those are fire signs.
Yeah.
And so the way that I would almost look at that is like, and then the first quarter in manifesting with the moon is taking action.
Okay.
So the way that I would almost look at that is like, we need to let go of let go of a few things so that we can take action for new things.
Yeah.
So not just pulling it in and going with it, but like, we got to let this shit go so that we can take that action towards your goals. That's what that first quarter moon represents, kind of thing. And so yeah, I think those are good cards though.
Yeah, they all like, I was shuffling and they all three fell out like together. So I was like, well, there they are.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. So just journal those and kind of go from there.
Yep.
And then we can talk about it, And then Elena, you put your hand up. What's up?
Yeah. So I had the Four of Wands, the Seven of Pentacles, and the Magician. Which I don't know what any of those mean. Just I haven't any of them memorized.
No, that's okay. You don't have to have any of them memorized. I don't have all of tarot cards memorized, and I've been doing it since I was 18. So, I just have key things that kind of help me.
Yeah.
So what was it? Four of Wands.
Wands. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Seven of
Pentacles.
Seven of Pentacles, and then
The Magician.
the Magician. So looking at Four of Wands, Seven of Coins, Pentacles is also
Oh, is that what
coins.
that is? Okay.
Four of Wands. I gotta write it down, or I'm gonna have you just repeat it.
Yeah.
Of coins, and then Magician. Okay. So just straight off the bat, looking at the imagery of the cards, what do you feel, or how do you feel pulled towards those? Like what's your initial thoughts on those?
Well, one thing that I was trying, like, focusing on manifesting is, like, trying to find my spirituality and, like, really, like, trying to, like, find who I am. And I do think it's interesting just literally that, like, the wands and the magician and, like, the pentacles, at least, they've got, like, the pentagram on them are, like, things that I associate with, like, the mystic and magicians and magic and stuff like that, which I thought was interesting. Looking at the pictures, it looks like, at least I have the Modern Witch tarot deck, which is really cute, but like the Seven of Pentacles, she's watering plants and like looking at a lot of plants. And I think I associate like the Magician with like change. And so maybe like watering myself and kind of pouring into myself in a different way for change, like moving forward, letting go of the past is something I'm trying to work on. And the Four of Wands has like a pillar with like a little, I don't know, like tent, almost canopy type thing, and like two
Yeah.
people under it. And so I see it as like comfort and safe, but all like a covering was kind of what I see. I don't know if that's
Okay.
helpful as much, but it did show up upside down. I don't know if that makes a difference.
So some people read reverse. I don't personally read reverse,
Okay.
but it's cool if you do. That's just my personal preference. But usually the reverse is like the opposite of whatever like the main keywords are. So like, but you can read it however you want to read it. Four of Wands, I could not remember. Like I said, I don't have them memorized, so I just looked it up. Four of Wands represents community, home, celebrations. But the reverse of that is lack of support, lack of instability, or like instability, lack of roots, or home conflict. And knowing what you're going through, that actually, the reverse actually
Yeah,
fits that,
especially with the holidays coming up and
Right.
everything.
And so, and
Okay.
then, so the way that I would look at that is like, right now you're kind of going through this change of who you are, what you're trying to accomplish, trying to find yourself. But that Seven of Coins is about movement, moving through
Okay.
that, and kind of like, kind of reaping what you've sowed, kind of thing, like harvesting the work you put in. And then the Magician is a major arcana card. And the Magician is one of those where it can represent change, but it's also one of those things where you have to, it's like asking you to be mindful of the sleight of hand. Like people might
Okay.
not always be what they seem, kind of thing. And so that's usually the way that I read that card sometimes. But it's also about, so it kind of goes two ways. The Magician has two sides to it. The Magician, like the way that I look at it is like, oh, you better watch out, that sleight of hand might get you. But on the other hand, it's about putting in the work and finding the magic that you're working towards, and that change, and manifesting that, and putting in the time to do that. So just kind of keep that in mind. But the way that I would look at it is like, these cards are kind of telling you what you're already going through and what you're trying to work towards. So they're like
Yeah.
right on point for
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
all of that. So just kind of
Okay.
keep that in mind. Amber, did you happen to pull any cards, or is there anything you want to share with what we've been talking about?
Yeah, so I pulled I have the Guardian of the Night tarot deck,
Okay.
and I pulled the Nine of Cups, the Sun, and the Moon.
Ooh, okay.
So I look at, the imagery because I don't know either as well. But I actually pulled the Nine of Cups the last time I pulled my own tarot.
Oh, okay.
So I kind of knew that one. So the imagery is the peacock, and just to me, it's reminding me to continue to show up for myself, show my true colors, and like be myself. And then the sun in the imagery is like a mountain lion or a cougar. So to me, that's again just like remember to be strong and confident. And then the moon is the coyote. And to me, that was like, although I want to be strong and confident, don't like let that get to my head, like still be mindful of what's going on around me. Like it has that sneakiness kind of feel, but not like in a bad way, like just be aware of like what could be around the corner.
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually a great interpretation of all of those. And the Nine of Cups represents like nine in general in numerology is completion. So things like coming to the end, but not in a bad way. So the Nine of Cups, when looking it up, because I wanted to make sure I had it right, is like wishes coming true, happiness, satisfaction, success, achievements, recognition. And then the sun is about like that it's like a positive, yes, this is happening, like show up for yourself, make sure that you're like sitting in your ego almost. But just like you said with the moon represents the opposite of that, of being mindful, trusting your intuition, because not everything is like highlighted like it would be with the sun. So
Mhm.
absolutely, I agree with that, your interpretations of that. And that's a great deck to kind of, give you that imagery
Yeah.
kind of thing. Um, so, and then for my cards, I'm gonna give you my cards and then I'm gonna ask you all what you think of these. My cards were Three of Coins, Justice, and the Nine of Cups. So what do you guys think about those? For me.
The
Yeah.
Justice card kind of speaks to me a little bit.
Okay, well, how does it speak to you?
So, based off of, because I used to pull the Justice card a lot in this deck, and I know the word that came to my mind is conflict. So, there's something going on with you that you are conflicted with, whether it be a certain situation or just with your own emotions. So that's the key word that's always stuck with me about the Justice card has been conflict and inner battle, essentially.
So I could totally see that with the Justice. But I also, the way that it comes across for me, um, is more in the sense of like karma, but not necessarily karma for myself, even though yes, that could be the case. Just karma in other things that are going on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
And so the Three of Pentacles is the first one, and it comes up as teamwork, shared goals, collaboration, apprenticeship effort, and pooling energy. So like for me, what's weird is that lately I've been sitting in my feelings. I've been having a hard time emotionally. This is just a bad time of year for me in general. And I just feel like I was telling somebody else earlier because she messaged me and she's like, I won't be on the call like normal because they're having some stuff going on with her family and stuff. And I was like, girl, I feel you. I just dried my tears so I could get ready for this call because I just feel like I'm failing and I feel like I'm failing everybody. And so, with this first card, this 3 of coins, where it's saying teamwork and shared goals and collaboration, the way that it comes across for me, or how I'm feeling about it, is like, I need to not be so hard on myself, and I need to lean into my community just like I want my community to lean on me. And I don't always do that. And so part of what I want to do for 2024 is kind of lean on the collective a little more, so that those that are in the collective, we, you know, it kind of trickles down into the Phat Life Facebook group. But I want the collective to be more involved with what we're doing together, you know, because right now we meet twice a month. We have the new moon, full moon, and then I tend to do events over in the Facebook group, but I want to do more like collective specific stuff. Like, I want to put my energy towards that, but it's so hard sometimes because the collective is so much smaller than the Facebook group that we just don't have the same momentum. You know what I mean? But I want the energy focused here kind of thing. So 1, 2, then that Justice card comes in, and the way that especially coming from like team collaboration, the way that I look at it is cause and effect is another justice piece. So what you put in is what you get out, you know, kind of thing. And that's kind of how 2023 has been. Amber's been with me for pretty much the whole year at this point, right? And I'm sure you've seen where so much stuff has gone on this past year.
It's been a crazy year for all of us.
Yes. It's been a crazy year for all of us. And I think, and that's where this Justice card comes in, is like the cause and effect is that I have not been able to put as much focus into the collective. I've been able to do more in the last couple of months, but not as much focus as I could, you know, with everything that's gone on, from people trying to tear down everything I built, to like, I've had more haters come out of the woodwork this year than I've had in a very long time. To the point I thought I was gonna have to get a lawyer involved. Like that kind of shit.
You need one, you got one.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. But yeah, like, that's calmed down. That was like at the beginning of the year where I literally was like, I think I'm gonna have to send a cease and desist kind of bullshit, you know, to my mom being sick, and the thing, like, ICU, not sure she's gonna make it kind of sick, and me bending over backwards to kind of help take care of her, but also holding boundaries with that. And those boundaries is that I just don't go to her house because her house is not safe for me, like mentally and emotionally, it is not safe for me. But part of this bullshit that's been going on is that all that bending over backwards means nothing because I won't show up where she wants me to show up, which is at her house, you know? So having to deal with the emotional part of that, like Christmas, Thanksgiving. This is my first Thanksgiving without my family. This might be my first Christmas without my family because my mom is so hell-bent on having it at her house. When all I'm saying is, like, I want to be there. I'm just not going to do it at your house. Like, let's figure out something else, you know? So that's all the cause and effect that the Justice card can represent, you know? And so my hope is that this 3 of coins is like, this is because we're asking where we're going into, right? We're asking what we're manifesting into. So that 3 of coins is like collaboration and coming together as a community effort and seeing the cause and effect that can bring that. And then with that comes the last card, which is Chef's Kiss, because it's a 9 of Cups card, which is that completion of wishes coming true kind of bullshit. So, you know, so I have to make sure I take pictures and write that down and kind of do my own journaling on that. But I'm hoping for good things. So with all of that, I want us to kind of do our little new moon ritual. We might go over the hour just because we did a little more than what we normally do. Normally we just kind of talk about it and then pull a card. So we're doing a little more than we normally do. But what I want us to do is, if you have a candle, these little chime candles are the best, but you can do whatever candle works for you. And I'm going to just kind of walk you through it, but you guys can do the lighting and all that stuff afterwards so that we can kind of save on time. But what I want you guys to do is, if you want to dress your candle with herbs and oils, you can. Some of the herbs that I pulled for myself was pink Himalayan salt for protection, eggshells for protection, lavender and roses for luck and love and beauty and all that stuff. And then I have Triple John oil, which it has St. John's wort, Dixie John, and I forget the third John wort roots. They're all roots. But this is meant to give it a little oomph, like an extra dash of like teeth, And then I also have just a new moon oil, which is specific to the new moon, which has lavender, rosewood, fern, and rosemary in it. And what I want us to do, again, after the call, because I'm going to have to break all this down before I do it. I want us to carve our manifestations. Part of my manifestations is that I want to grow the collective more. I want to find more peace in what I'm doing. I want more deeper friendships, because I only have I've lost friends this past year that were very close to me, and they're still alive. They're just not my friend anymore, or our friendship looks very, very different, and which is very hurtful because it was like a decades long friendship that has shifted. So I'm trying to manifest like the love and abundance that I find with my deep friendships, So I'm going to be carving just like keywords into the candle. I'm going to drip it in oil, and then I'm going to take my crushed up herbs and dress it and kind of rub it into the carvings. And then I'm going to light it up, put my intentions out there, right? So that's what I want you guys to do for that. And then, again, trying to just stay on time so we're not too late. We're going to pull a card. So every new moon, we pull a new shadow card that we want to focus on for the month. And so last month we pulled, what was it that we pulled, William or Amber? Do you remember? Perfect. We pulled perfect. Oh, Amber, was that what you were going to say?
No, I was going to say, I don't remember.
I remembered the month before, but not
I
last
don't
month.
even.
It was grief before.
Oh, yeah. That one was rough. That one was very rough. So this last month, we've been working on the shadow of perfection, or the shadow of perfect. And that shadow was basically telling us to stop comparing ourselves because we feel like we're not perfect. Fucking cards, man. I swear to God. Because that's all I've done all month long. Is what I really love about these cards is that even though the shadow itself for me may not be totally healed or integrated, because that's the whole point of shadow work, is to recognize and integrate it into our lives. It allows me to recognize it and work on that integration. And so this past month with the perfect card, especially more in the last week or two, I have compared my imperfections, causing my insecurities to come up. And but because of the fact that we pull these cards, I can say, oh, this is the shadow of perfect. That's not you know what I mean? And kind of help work on that. And so, so new moon, new month, new card, right? So we're going to just take a moment and see what shadow we need to work on for this month. And so what I like to do is just kind of shuffle till one flies out, or till I feel called to pull. Almost. It almost flew out there. There we go. Oh, this one's going to be good. Boundaries. It is the shadow of boundaries. And these cards have like a little like kick you in the ass kind of like verbiage on it. And then it has an affirmation. So I'm going to read those and then I'll read what the book says because that always ends up going even deeper. But this card is ruby red, and the color red in this particular piece is about kind of holding. The way that my intuition wants to read it is along the lines of like holding shame and guilt, and that's why we don't hold our boundaries. And so, but the words on it says you step into people's personal space and you avoid building your support team. What the fuck? What the fuck? After what I just said, these boundaries are gonna fuck me up. Oh my goodness. The affirmation on this though is that I set healthy space and time boundaries and I am cooperative. So let's read what that says, what that means. Because sometimes when I read like the affirmation where it's like, I am cooperative. Yeah, Elena, I see that look. I'm like, But let's just read what boundaries represent in this shadow. As a spiritual being, you are particles of light dancing in the cosmos, fascinated by the concept of feeling separated and being an individual. As part of the human experience or experiment, you love to set boundaries or have no boundaries at all to feel the difference between unity and separation. Are you currently burnt out and exhausted because you're experimenting with the no boundaries game? Are you unable to say no? The first step is to be honest with yourself and admit that you cannot do it all alone, and then either delegate or return what you know you cannot stay committed to completely. Keep clearing till a third of your day is open to just having fun and not entirely related to work chores. Have you set too many boundaries in place and become isolated? You feel in control, however, your strict boundaries have resulted in limiting your growth. Open to advice and support from others by employing someone to work with you, bring together a board of advisors, or join a group for accountability and sharing. This is our group of accountability and sharing. Practice personal spatial awareness by ensuring you are standing at an arm's length away from the person to whom you are speaking. So the way that I read this is that the shadow of boundaries goes two ways. Either one, there's no boundaries at all, and you're just bending over backwards for anybody and everybody in hopes that you can feel connected. How well is that working out for you? You know? Or the other side of it is that you're so stern in your boundaries, which I feel like maybe this is me, this has become me, is that you're so stern in your boundaries that the book says that you've become isolated because you're like, nope, that doesn't work for me. Nope, 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 nope. And to an extent, I have isolated myself because I don't want to deal with other people and their bullshit, you know? And so this particular card is saying, you know, the shadow piece of that is like finding the middle ground. Like, don't bend over backwards for everybody, but don't isolate yourself either because you're not willing to be open to others' suggestions or whatnot, you know? And just trusting that you will set a healthy boundary based on space or time, you know? And space or time can mean, like, for me, my boundary is that I'm not going to a particular space that makes me feel like I have to walk on eggshells or hold my breath and hope that nothing is said to me that's out of pocket, you know? But the time boundary is also saying, sure, I'd be happy to listen to whatever you have to say, but only for 5 minutes. After that, I gotta be done, and finding that compromise. So how are y'all feeling about boundaries, especially during Christmas? Like, this is like, talk about, like, I don't think this card could be any more perfect, because Christmas is usually a time where we're coming together for going boundaries in the sake of like family and whatnot. So how are we feeling?
I don't know who wanted to go, but the first part of that is where I didn't have boundaries. That's where I was, and as Caitlin knows, and now I'm on the other side where there's times where I feel like I isolate myself, but it's not like the people that I pushed out were like great. Like, it's people that needed to go hit the dough. So I have legit Caitlin as as like my go-to, my best friend, and then I have a couple of like close friends, but they're majority work friends, and I'm okay with that because we have that boundary. We don't really hang out outside of work, but I think for me, the whole boundary thing is something I needed to learn because, like I've said many times on here, my main goal is peace. And I didn't have peace for a long time. And now that I have it, I will hold on to that peace as long as I can. And if you can't add to it and all you want to do is take away from it, you got to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, and I totally feel that as well. Where the peace part of it is so important. But it comes back down to that boundary setting of like, don't isolate yourself too much, for the peace kind of thing. Hi, Courtney. Welcome. You're just joining us, but we're about to end. But I wanted to let you come in and just kind of check out the last little bit. And then if you decide to join the collective, you can watch the whole thing. It'll be available for replay. So anybody else want to talk about like how you're feeling about the shadow of boundaries, or not having boundaries, having too many boundaries, whatever that may be? Amber?
Yeah, I think this is a sign for me. I put up way too many boundaries that it affects me from having like meaningful connection with people. So I think that's part of my goal for the year to come is I've had some self growth and supporting myself and doing things that I want to do, but now I need to like let people in more uh to have like more of a close knit community, which I like. I have the collective, but not in the way as like close friendship.
That makes total sense. Absolutely. The collective is a fantastic community to be able to lean on, but unless you're seeing us all the time, which, virtually twice a month isn't the same as like hanging out for margaritas down at the soccer taco kind of thing, you know what I mean? Which now that I say that, like, hello, let's find a Tuesday night. But
Hello.
but yeah, like that makes total sense to have that as a goal, since this is the shadow of that, like leaning into that a little bit and maybe finding those people that you can have closer to you than just the collective. So I mean, not saying that the people in the collective can't be that for you, but you know what
Yeah.
I mean.
Yep.
So anyone else want to share? Yeah, Elena.
Yeah, this is gonna be. I thought it was interesting that it was boundaries because this will be my first like Christmas after having set boundaries, because I used to like with my family specifically, because I used to be no boundaries, like just freaking doormat, I guess, like, and the emotional donkey for my family where I had to carry everything.
Same,
And
girl, same.
yeah. And so this will be the first year that because I cut everybody off for a long time. And so now I'm trying to let them back in. And it's really hard for me to actually hold on to the boundaries because of shame, because of guilt. And so when you said that, I was like, yeah, because I find myself even now like slipping back into, oh, I've got to make sure everything happens, otherwise are we going to have Christmas or not? And it's like, okay, that's not my burden. Let's keep the boundaries. Let's keep everything, because the only one who's going to enforce the boundaries are me. Like, and that's my boundaries are not respected very well, and unless I keep them and respect them, nobody else will. So it's going to be a challenge.
Absolutely.
So woohoo!
We're on that same like level because same. My boundaries came last Christmas after Christmas was ruined by my mom's shitty boyfriend. And all year long, I've had to kind of hold that boundary. And even at Thanksgiving, I told her, is like, listen, I want to be a part of family things. I'm just not going to do it if that means I have to come over to your house to do that, because your house is not safe for me. She still decides to have Thanksgiving at her house, and then the day after, she decides to send a group chat to the family saying, Ashley's a big girl, but hopefully she can get out of come through the holidays with grace and humor, and I want everybody to be at my house at Christmas. And, one day you'll regret not being here because our time is limited, and maybe you can come down off that perch you're on. And I'm like, why are you trying to manipulate and guilt me when all I've said is like, we just need to find a new location. I'm not cutting anybody off. I just need a new location. So yes, yes, I'm right there with you. This is the first Christmas I'm having to hold that boundary. And, but I've been holding that all year long, like Mother's Day, Easter, we tried a different location, and then I got sick with COVID. So that was my family's way of saying of like, oh, nope, sorry, you couldn't uphold your end of the bargain. So we're going back to mom's. And I'm like, I couldn't help that. I was literally dying in bed with COVID. Not dying, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And so I've missed a lot of holidays this year with my mom specifically because she just doesn't want to come up with a solution. And then I'm the bad guy because I'm the emotional scapegoat, and I've always been no boundaries, and I'll, just kind of held out together for everybody. But this card right here
I know.
is kicking our ass, So, Caitlin, do you want to share anything? And Courtney, I know you're just kind of coming in, but you're welcome to share as well once Caitlin
I
starts.
really hate I missed it, but thank you for letting me come in.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was gonna say that I'm kind of like I'm in the in-between stages, actually, between not bending over backwards, but also not isolating myself, if that makes sense. So, like, Will knows more of the journey that I've been on, but so I divorced my husband and I left him last year. And since then, I've learned to set boundaries, not just with friends and with him, but my main struggle has been with friends. I've been giving too much time, and I even had a tarot reading back in August where it was like, you're pouring too much out of your cup. You need to start pouring into your own cup. And since then, I've had to let go of who I thought was a very good friend and set that boundary and not allow them to come back. And I'm also in a place right now with another friend where they're all about themselves. And so I'm on that teetering line of, for example, kind of letting their snaps go a couple of days before I respond because it's always about them. And they kind of use me as a therapist, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I am in this in between of I'm finally starting to learn how to set boundaries. But at what point do I not isolate myself? Like, am I doing too much? Am I still doing too little? Like, I'm in that learning process still. So I'm like right smack dab in the middle of all of you guys. Whereas you and Elena have set your boundaries, and Will has set his major boundaries too. And y'all have kind of figured it out, and you're like, oh no, if I isolated myself, and I'm sitting here like, am I doing enough or am I doing too much? Like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I've got a smooth brain, no lumps, no bumps. Like, so I'm in a weird place with boundaries, if that makes any sense at all. I have a weird relationship with boundaries at the moment because I can never tell if I'm doing too much or too little. And then I feel guilty if I feel like I'm doing too much.
I absolutely understand that. That guilt comes from being on the other end of not being respected. And you've been disrespected for so long that when you start self-respecting and setting those boundaries, you feel guilt because you're putting those boundaries in place.
Yeah.
And so
I've,
that doesn't mean you're doing too much. With friends like that, that's kind of what's happened with some of my friendships is they wanted everything to be about them, and I can't do that, and they didn't like that,
Yeah.
and that does shift the friendships, and there's grief behind that with how that looks, but fuck, the piece on the other side is so much better. And so and friends that truly respect you, when you set a boundary, I have set lots of boundaries this year, and the friends that truly respect me said no problem, and our friendships are just as strong, if not stronger. It's the people that do not respect me that have had the hardest time and that are no longer in the position in my life that they once were. And that comes from that doesn't mean I didn't sit with guilt or shame over setting that boundary, or
Yeah.
guilt or grief with the way that things shifted. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
it's okay to be in that in between. It's one of those things where this friend that you have just saying something along the lines of like, I totally get this is a really frustrating time for you. I just don't have the mental capacity to hold it for you. If
Yeah,
they
I've
can
I've
respect you
tried.
for that, they'll say no problem. If they can't, that's your answer right there.
Yep, that's my problem. Is he even asked me, he was like, have I done something wrong? And I told him, and he continues to do it. And so that's where I'm in that place of like, okay, do I cut him off?
You
And
don't have
am
to cut
I?
no, you don't necessarily have to cut him off, but you can say something along the lines of like, hey, this is the situation that's happening. This is where the problem lies. And if this continues to happen, this is how our friendship will be from now on. And that means that I'm not going to answer when you call, or I may
Yeah,
only get to see you. And if he doesn't like that, then at that point, it may be one of those things where I love you, but I just can't do this anymore, you know?
yeah.
But
I'm right there.
yeah, and that's okay. You don't have to be any further or any less than where me and Elena and Will are, or Amber, or we don't know Courtney's journey just yet. She's gonna have a moment to talk, but like it's okay to be where you're at, and coming back to where the shadow of perfect last month was, comparing yourself where we are. You don't have to do that. Like, don't do that. Just focus on your journey right now. That's your timing. Our timing is a little different. But there's a article in the collective where it's like how to set healthy boundaries, and it talks about my situation with my mom and stuff. Go read that and take some of that away and see if that kind of might, you know, I still have issues with boundaries. It's okay. Like, it's a learning curve. It's not a dip it and drip it kind of thing. It's a daily daily struggle.
Yeah.
So just kind of keep that in mind. And
Thank
then
you.
yeah, you're welcome. And then Courtney, welcome. I'm so glad you joined us, even though it's towards the end. But if you'd like to share anything about, like, after hearing what we've talked about a little bit, feel free.
Um, I really hate that I didn't see the invite until late. But like again, appreciate it so much because currently boundaries are one of my struggles, one of my um, things I'm working through, and you know, I'm learning what codependency is and those kind of things. So it's like a major situation, and so I really resonate with some of the things Caitlin is saying because I have a hard time with the in between with knowing healthy. And so, what I really tried to learn to do recently is is because I have a bad problem with guilt as well. And so what I've learned to do recently is take an interaction that I have with a person, put myself in their shoes and think, would I feel guilty for treating myself the way that this person just treated me? And putting myself in that position of like, okay, would I treat this person this way? And would I feel guilty for it if I did? And if the answer is yes, then figuring out a way to put a boundary and then stopping it before it happens. And so trying to take control of that situation where like, okay, oh, I see a red flag. Hold on. I don't currently have a space for this right now. I'm sorry if that's what you need, but you'll have to find someone else to talk to about this for the moment. And if there is a time where I have space for it, then we can talk about it. And my best friend and I have really like started working because we both are similar souls. And so if we have something heavy, we'll always ask, do you have room for this today? Like it's been such a game changer for our friendship. Because we both have things going on in our lives, and there are some days where we do have room for it, and there are some days when we don't. So when we test the temperature like that, then it allows us space to not only be able to be helpful in the conversation, but also to just flourish in our friendship and feel so seen and heard and loved. And so, that's just the best advice that you could give, Ash, is that testing the waters and saying, I'm not capable of this right now, or I don't have room for this right now. Can you please ask me from now on if I have room? It's just been such a game changer. And Elena, I love what you said. I don't even know if you noticed how big what you said was about, this is not my burden. This is not my burden to bear. If someone is gaslighting you, if someone is manipulating you, if someone is treating you poorly, if someone is not respecting your boundaries, if someone is not listening, that's not your burden to bear, that they're not capable of listening. It's not your burden to bear that they're not capable of caring about you enough to respect you. It's not your burden to bear that they're unhappy or that they're unwilling or whatever their problem may be. It is a major, it's not my burden. It's your feelings are not my burden. And we've been taught in the South, that's very selfish to think of it that way. But in reality, I don't think that being selfish is necessarily a problem when it comes to personal boundaries and personal space. And so I'm trying to unlearn that as well. When I've set boundaries, it's okay for me to be selfish because no one else has to live in my body. No one else has to experience my life. No one else has to be me or have my feelings. And so I should be selfish with those. I should respect those and respect my own boundaries. That's currently what I'm going through. It's okay, I have these boundaries for myself. And I find myself, wanting to be helpful. I say helpful because, trying to be helpful to someone isn't always helpful to myself. And it's not always helpful to them either if I'm not in a healthy place to do it. And so recognizing, hey, I set a boundary for myself. This has been presented to me. Did I respect my own boundary or not? And that's been such a journey of self-love too. So, you guys are just on the right track. And I'm going to start saying that's not my burden. Your feelings are not my burden, and that's okay.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah. Even in just the 5 minutes I've got to listen, or the 20 minutes. Thank y'all so much. It's been so good.
Good. I'm so glad. And thank you so much for joining us. We do this every month. Elena this is her first time too, but Amber, and this is Caitlin's first time, but she just joined the collective. So she's still trying to figure it all out. But yeah, every month on the new moon, we talk about the new moon astrology and we pull a card, which is the boundaries card this month. And then in 2 weeks, we will meet up again for the full moon. And we'll kind of talk about the astrology of that. And then we check in with how we're feeling with our boundaries. Are we being more mindful with them? Or whatever the card is. This time it's boundaries, but sometimes it's grief. Sometimes it's perfect. Sometimes it's, give me another one. Will, what's another one we've Those are the only two you remember. Grief was one of them. Grief and fatality was another. So it's different every month, whatever gets pulled. But I hope you both will come join us. Come join the collective. Like I said, there's articles in there about self-growth, shadow work, and other things, confidence building and whatnot. And then come like the big part of the subscription is coming on these and like really learning and talking about all of this. So before we end, because we're kind of over, we try to just stay from 9 to 10, but we're over because we were doing a little more than what we normally do. Is there anything else anybody wants to share in regards to the manifesting with the moon, the ritual, the card pulling, the shadow work, whatever it may be? Anything there?
I will just say, every meeting you've talked about the manifested with the moon, the worksheets and stuff you have, and I always intend to go get them, and I never do until now. They are downloaded on my phone. I'm going to print them off because as I'm looking at them, I'm like, these are really helpful. Like, so I'm going to start actually doing them every time because I'm like, wow, like this, it really will help even further the intention and what you're learning from
Yes,
these
I
two.
will be doing the same.
I'm so glad you got them though. I tried to tell you, for those that are members in the collective, these are a free download. So it gives you it kind of breaks down how we manifest with the moon, what the masculine and feminine energy look like for that time frame within the month. And then there's also new moon and full moon rituals that what we did tonight on the call, I just followed the new moon, full moon ritual stuff. And so you can literally print that out each meet, and that way you can kind of keep up with it that way, whatever works best for you. But I'm so glad that that's helpful. That means a lot because I worked really hard on that. And so for those that are not in the collective, please come join us. It's only $4.99 a month, but you can check it out for free for 7 days. So come see if that's something you want to do. And then hopefully we'll see you at the next meetup in 2 weeks. Oh yeah, so 2 weeks is the 26th. That's my birthday. So we're going to meet the day after the full moon on the 27th. So I'll make an event in the collective for that. So we will meet on the 27th unless something comes up. Just because it's Christmas, it's kind of crazy, but I prefer our meetups. Like this is what fills my cup. So yeah, now if y'all need me for any reason, feel free to reach out and I will see you in a couple weeks.
Thank you.
Thanks. You're welcome. Have a great night. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.